Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and this is my Forza Horizon 5 review. Now, if I have to describe this game in 3 words, I would say that this is an absolute masterpiece, with an absolute masterpiece being the 3 words. Now, I have always been a racing game fan, but overall, even with my love for racing games, which is Need for Speed more than anything else, I have never really felt that a racing game could take on the other game genres, partly because, it doesn't really have that mass market appeal. So, it's not going to win Game of the Year awards or anything like that, which is still true. But this game does change that, at least for me. And well, now that you're already here, then I guess if you like this video, then press that like button and also subscribe to my channel because there are more videos coming. So, yeah. So where were we? Yeah, at Forza Horizon 5. Well, this game realistically should not have impressed me in the way that it did, owing to its various shortcomings. And there are a fair few shortcomings. And I would like to discuss those shortcomings right here and now before moving over to more greener grass. Now, the first thing that I found wrong with this game was the monetization. Now, while monetization in this game is not the worst that I've seen from the industry, they are definitely some of the lower points in the game. For example, the VIP pass. Now, the VIP pass is nothing new, but that doesn't excuse the fact that it really shouldn't be here in the first place. It gives you double the reward and progression, and it gives you some super wheel spins and stuff like that. But the reward and progression system in Forza is already so generous that it is entirely useless. And I, for one, see no point in a system like this. But, well, Microsoft is still selling this, and it is still here, and its presence is not welcome. But other than that, there is the car pass, which is essentially a season pass for all the cars that they will add, all the DLC cars that they will add. It is a bit overpriced for my taste. I don't really recommend getting it. Like, Forza Horizon 5 already has so many cars that honestly it doesn't even make much sense to get a car pass unless it's like really cheap or something. And then there is the season pass, which will bring 2 promised expansions. Now, if these expansions are anything like the previous expansions that we have seen in both Forza Horizon 3 and 4, I would say the season pass is a much better deal than the car pass. Like, if you can get the season pass eventually, then go get that. Or, just wait for the game to go on a sale and just get the ultimate edition anyway. That would be my recommendation. Overall, I would say the post-launch for this game, it's not as greedy as some of the other games, but I still think there is some room for improvement here. Now we move on to the second shortcoming of this game, which is the story. The story, or lack thereof, has been a major issue for me since, well, as far back as I can remember. Like, I've been playing this series for basically since Forza Horizon 3 because that was the first game to make it on PC. And the story really hasn't changed at all. It's just like some people go up, set up a festival, and drive extremely fast cars and wreck stuff, but there are no consequences because the authorities have given them permission for some reason. I mean, the insurance cost for these festivals must be through the roof. That's all that I can say about that. It's not really even a story. It's just an excuse to get you from like one showcase event to the next one and just keep you going from race to race, like at your own pace. Hey, that just rhymed. Anyway, the third and I would say the final point, which I feel like is a negative for Forza Horizon in general, is the progression. And I feel like progression is yet another area which really suffers in Forza. And it is yet another thing that I have had a problem since Forza Horizon 3. Now, I understand that Forza has always been this way, but still there are things that doesn't really make sense to me. For example, I have an M346 in the game, which I love. It's my favorite car. Now I've upgraded that, I've put in a V8, I've tuned that, and it is an S1 class car with a max rating of 900. But it outperforms other cars and it gets better lap times and it gets better acceleration and drag race times than cars that are almost 950 in the S2 class. It makes no sense. Like, the only problem that I have currently with my tuned S1 class 900 car is that the braking kind of sucks. The braking distance is a bit too high and that's where I lose time. But even with that, like I have maneuvered around that so that it really doesn't make a difference now. And this car is essentially performing way higher than a 900 class car should. Moreover, I've been in situations where I've lost a race with an S1 car, which is the M3, while still posting better times than the higher rated cars. Like I have an S1 900 car, and somehow when I'm actually doing the race in that car, I am posting better times than the S2 cars and still losing. By the way, I won that race with that S2 car. That's why I'm making the comparison. So the AI system and the rating system in general is really inconsistent. And the typical Forza AI is still present in the game, where one car is far ahead of everyone else. Like it's not as much of a problem as it was in Forza Horizon 3 and 4, but it is still there, and it is still sometimes funny because when you're playing in the higher difficulty, sometimes the first car is just so far ahead that you need to basically spend your entire race catching it down. Now, I would still say though, the drive avatars in Forza Horizon 5 are pretty much better than most open world racing games. Like the AI in this game is still better than most racing games that I've played. And currently I'm playing this on pro difficulty with my own set of assists, which is basically just stability control on. Oh no, is it stable? No, with traction control on and with ABS on and with pro difficulty. Pretty much everything else is like normal. The steering is in simulation, and I've turned down the damage of the car because I just don't like seeing my car being damaged. So I just don't have the damage on. And also, one more thing that I want to point out, I actually play with a keyboard. I know, blasphemy and all that. I do have a controller, but I'm just more comfortable on a keyboard because that's how I grew up playing pretty much every kind of game. Now, I can still play the game with a controller, and honestly, I kind of do better with a controller. It's just that sometimes it's muscle memory. Like my fingers are particularly, attuned to the keyboard inputs. So yeah, I'm still not quite comfortable with braking with my left hand. So I keep braking with my right hand, but there is like nothing there. So that's something that is my own problem, but it is there. However, all that said, these weaknesses also weirdly contribute to the game's greatest strengths. Now, this game has a lot to do. And I mean a lot. Like, this game would put Ubisoft games to shame. And that's saying something. So surely, just like those games, it is a bloated, unfocused mess, right? Well, not quite. It is unfocused, yes, but it never feels bloated. As I've said before, its lackluster story and progression actually contributes to this feeling of freedom that the player has. For example, for me at least, I've been just driving around randomly, not really doing much, just smashing the boards, sometimes doing some road races and also the street scene races. I've done that. I haven't even touched the cross country or the Baja modes for the most part because I'm not really interested in that. But because I'm still progressing at a decent pace and because the story isn't forcing me to go check those things out, I'm not going for these events that I don't like as much. The game, for me at least, doesn't feel bloated because it's not making me do things that I don't necessarily like in order to get me to go do the things that I actually do like, which some of the other games do. Like they have this weird sort of a grind where you need to go and complete all the activities that they have on offer, even if you don't like them, if you want to just progress in some other area. And therefore, this game never feels bloated. Nor did I ever feel overwhelmed by the amount of content the game has. That is because I was the one setting the pace. The game is not giving me a clock. The game is not telling me that, hey, you should do this. It's just saying, these are there. Do whatever the hell you want. And that is the kind of freedom that publishers like Ubisoft like to rave about in their games, but they can hardly ever pull off. And Microsoft here has done that, and they have pulled it off with some style. And that is not where the positives end. Far from it, in fact. The car list looks mostly the same on the surface, but I've seen that there are a lot of aero options added in that were not present in the previous entry. For example, the M3 that I am driving currently, it has a lot more aero options that it did in Forza Horizon 4. And I can only presume that that's the case for a lot of cars. And I have actually seen those options for a lot of cars. And the cars themselves look excellent for the most part. They are very well detailed, especially for an open world game. And they have further improved the excellent audio in the game. Like the car engine noises in Forza Horizon 3 or 4 were one of the weakest aspects of the game, and now they are excellent. Don't believe me? Listen to this. I was able to get close to the actual sound of the M3 GTR better than most NFS games. I cannot describe the joy I felt when I first heard that transmission whine that happened when the M3 kind of went into higher RPM. And I love that. And all of that brings me to the best thing about this game, the graphics. Now, I won't bother you with the finer details, and there is a great video made by Digital Foundry that does just that, and I would recommend checking out that video. I will leave a link to that video down in the description below. But what I will say here is that this game looks stunning. It looks great in motion, but it also looks great when you slow down, stop, and zoom in and just look at the details. Like everything has a ridiculous amount of detail. But you know something that is even more ridiculous than that? It is their optimization. Like, in an age where companies treat optimization of PC ports an option rather than a necessity, like it's like, oh, you have a 4600H? Oh, don't worry, you may or may not reach 60 FPS. We are not going to bother with that. In an age where essentially we are seeing just garbage PC ports that mostly don't work, the fact that this game, looking the way it does, managing to run at 1440p at 60 FPS locked, at basically ultra settings, it leaves me speechless. I cannot describe just how good this game functions on my PC. And my PC, it's not the best. It's a very modest setup. It's a 1660 Ti with a 4600H. The fact that I'm running at 1440p at 60 FPS locked at all times, it is excellent. The optimization, the levels of optimizations that they have done here is excellent, and other companies could learn a thing or two from them. Hell, Microsoft did learn a thing or two, because if you compare this game to Forza Horizon 3, and if you remember the way Forza Horizon 3 was launched on PC, that was terrible, by the way. And if you go even further back, and if you remember the Forza Motorsport 6 beta that they had on PC, that was horrible. And it really makes me happy that they have come a long way in developing their PC ports. And I really, really wish that more companies would do that. The more companies would learn from these sort of teams. Like, I really wish Sony would do this as well for their PC ports. Like, Sony so far has done exactly what Microsoft has done, as in they ported over older titles just to check the PC market, just to see how things work. And their ports have been mostly garbage, just like Microsoft did back in the day. So I really hope Sony also gets on these trends, and maybe we'll see the great PlayStation 5 games also come on PC someday and perform really well. And I would really love to see that. So in conclusion, Forza Horizon 5 is a game that I love. It's the best game in the franchise, bar none. It has also taken the title of the best racing game that I have ever played, and the title has been taken from a game that is my all-time favorite, which is Need for Speed Most Wanted. Like, yes, I love Need for Speed Most Wanted, but I have to be honest, like, if a game like that releases now, it would be blown out of the water. It was great for 2005. Hell, I would say it was even great if it had released in 2010. But now, not so much. And this game has fundamentally everything better than NFS Most Wanted. on a technical level at least. Like, I still have the nostalgia glasses on, and nothing is ever going to top that game for me because that's the game that made me into a gamer. But it comes so damn close. And so far, it also stands as being the best game I've played this year. Like, yes, the Game of the Year awards might have snubbed it, but I definitely didn't. So far, it is my Game of the Year. And unless Halo does something really special with its campaign, or I end up falling madly in love with Deathloop, which, by the way, I purchased recently for a discount thanks to Steam, I am sure that this game is going to end up as my Game of the Year. There are not many games this year that I've really played and I've really wanted to play again and again. But this game is that. And I love this game. So what score will I give it? Well, I've thought a lot about it and I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. It is a truly wonderful game. It's a game that you can play pretty much exclusively. If you don't want to play any other game, you can just jump into Forza Horizon 5 and there is enough content that it can keep you playing for hundreds of hours. But it is also the kind of game where you can play it when you have nothing else to do. Say you have a 10-15 minute break. You can't go play a round of Rainbow Six Siege. You can't go play a comp match in CSGO. What do? Well, just boot up Forza Horizon 5 and just idly drive around, or maybe do like 1 or 2 races and then quit. It is that kind of a game that everyone can play all the time. And honestly, even though it is not perfect, like this game is not perfect, but its imperfections mean that there are things they can still improve. And I cannot wait for the next entry of this franchise. Till then though, I'm going to be looking at hundreds of hours of content waiting for me right here. But if you're still unsure about this game and you don't know whether you want to spend full price on a racing game, well, you don't have to. Just pay a month of Game Pass, try the game out, and I assure you, this game deserves your time. Alright, that brings about the end of this video. It's a bit longer than I wanted it to be, but it is how it is. But if you did like it, then consider pressing that like button and also do subscribe to my channel for more content. I mean, the subscriber count has kind of gone down in recent times. The growth rate has gone down. But then again, none of my videos are performing ridiculously well, so I can kind of understand that. But I would still love if you guys would subscribe to my channel. And it would make me happy and I will give you more content to enjoy. So yeah, all that said, I will leave you guys in peace.